Welcome, everybody. This is an awesome opportunity to chat with the winemaker of Leclerc Briant. We have Herve Jestin with us today. He is considered the specialist of biodynamic approaches for sparkling wines. After more than 20 years as head winemaker of Duval-Lois in Vertu, he began in the early 2000s to advise wineries who wanted to convert to organic and biodynamic, not only through the Champaign region, but also abroad, Italy, Spain, England, and even Russia. In 2012, Herve discontinued his consulting activities to take over Leclerc Briant, along with his friend, Frédéric Zaimet, currently CEO of Leclerc Briant. Since then, Leclerc Briant started a new life, promoting Herve's approach and vision through a range of precise and elegant champagnes. I am so honored that you took the time to be with us.
So honored.
And I'm
Really
well. Is that feedback happening on your end as well? Okay. Seems to have calmed down. That's great. Welcome, Herve. How are you?
Yes. Oh, so good to see you, Ron, and good morning, because I think it's not. It's the morning in the East Coast, in the West Coast, sorry, and yes, maybe lunchtime on East Coast. So it's nice to be in touch with you and to be in touch with all the people behind the computer. So nice to see you.
Thank you. We're honored on our end and thrilled to hear from you. We're going to go through some ideas and questions to let you tell us some of the visions you have and some of the methods you have, and give us some whys behind the precision. And I just love these wines. They give me energy. They have such vibrancy on their own. And I'll be honest with the audience, for me, it's not about biodynamics or organics or that. It's about when a wine connects with me like that, I want to talk to the person who made it and find out more, because it starts to matter a lot. And so that's where we're going to have our questions from. And we're also, just in case the voice comes over behind that we don't see, it's not Herve being a ventriloquist. Pierre Bettinger is also with us. He's the commerce manager at the winery, and he's there as a backup plan to make sure everything goes great. Say hello to everybody, Pierre.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, okay, so are we ready to start with questions?
Yes, it's okay.
Excellent. Okay, so what was the inspiration to breathe new life into the faded glory of Leclerc Briant as a property? Was it brought to you by Mark and Denise, the owners from America, or the investors from America? Was it brought to you by Frédéric, or were you already kind of attracted to this?
You know, a team is a sort of is like a chain. If a link lacks, it is the end of the story, you know. So of course, some links are stronger, you know. It's the case, of course, with Mark and Denise. Without their love of our product, of our French living art de vivre à la française, it would from 12, you know, because the passion, their bienveillance, you know, was very interesting and very. It was for us a sort of parents, you know. Even if we have more or less the same age, for us they were a sort of parents. They lead us to give and to bring our best to the Champagne, you know. So it was really their project, you know. And we decided, and personally I decided to follow them because from a very long time I was involved with the biodynamic and organic way of making wine here in Champagne. So I tried to produce my first organic and biodynamic wine in '95 at du Valois, you know. But when I left du Valois in 2006, I decided to continue my story and to improve my knowledge about biodynamic and organic, you know. And so I decided, as you mentioned previously, I decided to help some people to develop their approach of biodynamic everywhere in the world. So, but I was a bit frustrated because when you spend 1 week, you know, working for Mr. X or Mr. Y, you know, in UK, in Spain, or in Italy, you only see a part of the process, you know, and you don't control the story. So the interest of Leclerc Briant, you know, Leclerc Briant has a very nice story, previous story. Leclerc Briant was one of the pioneers of biodynamic here in Champagne and in north of France from 1990. So I knew Pascal Leclerc very well. And so I decided to continue his story because it was my dream to be able to control the whole production. And it was my dream, you know. So when Mark and Denise asked me to follow them, I immediately answered yes, because it was my dream, and it's difficult to explain, you know, but it's a sort of a living dream for me, you know. It's a sort of personal story. The wine and me is a personal story, you know. I have a special connection with the wine, you know, and so it's a sort of dream from 2012.
That I do identify with that, because prior to working for Winebo, I was my own boss as a consultant in the hospitality and wine trade in general for 11 years. And I totally feel what you're talking about, where you work really hard to help somebody progress, but you can't make them do it. You can only advise them. And if they give up on it, they give up on it, and you just have no recourse but to either continue to advise or walk away. And so finding a place to put all that energy where you know it's going to be heard totally makes sense to me. We already have questions, and one of them is very relevant here. How many winemakers are practicing biodynamic winemaking in Champaign? Or wine
in the world? Yes, it's possible to read many books written on the biodynamic applied to the agriculture or to the vine growing. But on the winemaking, it's impossible to find a book, you know. So it was very difficult because some people consider there is a huge influence of different systems on the agriculture in general, but in agriculture, of course, but in vine growing. But for the wine, those people consider there is no influences. So it was for me 25 years ago. It was very it was difficult to understand this point. So I decided to work the biodynamic, but I don't know if we will continue to use the word biodynamic applied to winemaking, because, as you know, Steiner didn't work at all on the winemaking, you know, and he considered the wine was not very interesting for human being, you know, because at that time, at the beginning of the 19th century, of the 20th century, it was in Europe the Industrial Revolution, and the people had to supply a large quantity of wines to give to the workers, because the workers had a very difficult life. So they had to supply a large quantity of very bad wines, you know. And Steiner was in front of Steiner. He saw many violence between the parents and the children, between the wife and the husband, you know. So he couldn't consider the wine was interesting for human being. But wine is present on our planet from a very long time, from more than 8,000 years, you know. And the wine was in general made by religious, by monk, by priest, you know. So the wine has a very special mission. And I consider the wine as a very special mission on our planet. It's not only a pleasure, you know, to drink wine, it's much more. So I wanted to bring to the consumer this additional value to the wine consumption. And Champagne, our Champagne, in general, Champagne is behind all the best moment of humanity, you know. When you celebrate something nice, you open a bottle of Champagne, you know. So in front of the consumption of our beverage, of our Champagne, I thought we had to be to the rendezvous, you know. So we had to be able to produce wine which will bring a sort of connection to the nature, because now many people are living in big towns, you know, New York, Paris, Tokyo, everywhere in the world. And those people are cut from nature, So I considered at that time that the wine would be able to be a sort of messenger of nature. So, but for that, we had to create everything, because it was impossible to find a book on the subject. So I started to work 25 years ago on the subject, and now it's possible for me to write a book on the subject, you know. So to answer your question, in the world, we are less than 5 winemakers working as we do, as we work at Leclerc, you know, because it's a very personal approach. I will try to explain, you know, but be sure that we bring to the wine some message coming directly from nature. We try to close our mental. We try to listen to the nature to be able to bring what our wine needs, you know. So it could be different things, you know. Maybe you will ask later those questions, you know. But our idea was to improve and to write a sort of methods coming directly from nature. So it's never finished. I still continue every day to work on new approach and new things, but it takes a long time. It will never be finished, you know.
Well, all of that is why there's so few claiming what you're doing in the winery. But let's take a step back. Let's look at where a lot of people are practicing biodynamics in the vineyard, where Rudolf Steiner's work really was written and practiced and has now been readopted. And so, but on the screen for them and you is a picture of your vineyard on their left, a neighboring vineyard on the right. And while we were visiting there in November, I took this picture as we were wandering around a few of your vineyards. And it was such a great privilege to stand there and see the stark contrast between this idea that I feel like, you know, you're bringing life back to certain aspects of Champagne, and see that this vineyard looked alive, that vineyard looked not. And conventional viticulture on the right, biodynamic viticulture on the left. So give us sort of the plain vanilla, those of us who don't study it, understanding of what's going on in that picture.
You know, on the right part of the vineyard, the growers used pesticides, you know. They kill grass using, I don't know the word in English, it's herbicides, you know. And we don't use at all those chemical substances, you know. Pesticides was invented to kill life, all life, you know. And when you plan to convert your vineyard in organic and biodynamic, the third thing you have to do is to eliminate pesticides. If you eliminate pesticides, the grain will come back very fast. So this is the first step. So try, if you have a garden, a personal garden, you know, try to avoid to use pesticides. You will see grass everywhere. You will see some insect very fast, you know. So it's really the first step. But in the same time, you have to use some very special substances we use in a biodynamic approach. It's the first preparation is the 500. I don't know if if you know what it is. You know, it's in French. It's maybe Pierre would be able to translate. No, he's unable to translate. But maybe Ron, you will be able to translate. You know?
Is 500 the manure in the horn, or is that 501?
Yes, that's right. That's right. So this is a very important substance to bring back life to the soil, you know, and to yes, it's so we use some very special substances in biodynamic, but the first one is this one, you know, it's a 500, and we also use mariatune, you know, same substances, you know. So it's the first step of the process. But it's very powerful. You can believe us. It's very powerful. In three years, you are able to convert your vineyard and to bring back life. So it's not very difficult. You have to change your light, your view on nature. That's enough. You eliminate pesticides. This is the first thing, and after that, you bring to the soil substances. It could be 5-0, it could be Mayatune, it could be fermented extract, different fermented extract, So we have plenty of such a thing to bring life to bring back life to the soil. So it's not so difficult.
Yes, and for everybody that is listening to the webinar or watching right now, if you go to the Winebo YouTube channel, there is a Between the Two Somms episode where Jesse Becker and I actually went through the biodynamic preparations and what they are and what they are intended to do. So that would be great research for everybody on the call. I have a question from Liz. She would like to know what you think the future of biodynamic wine growing is from a more commercial standpoint. Perhaps large scale is what she's meaning.
Sorry, I just asked a translation, a very precise translation. Yeah. It's organic will increase because the market pressure is very important in growers, and on big names, And now a large number of big names are in front of the wall, because the pressure is very important. All the people now understand that we have to preserve our nature, and all the people understand that we have to bring care to what we drink and what we eat, and what we breathe, and what we breathe. So I think that a large number of people will convert their vineyard, and the big names make some experimentation now, but it's a long time between the moment you take the decision to convert and between the first production of your bottle with the organic and biodynamic production. So it will take maybe 10 years, at least 10 years. Okay. But of course, a lot of people start to change. But we have less than 5% of the vineyard in organic. And as Pierre tells me, because it's not my idea, but as Pierre tells me, they make this conversion with the commercial idea in mind. It's not really, but because they feel it, in their heart. But they have a so important pressure that they have to convert. It's the market pressure which leads them to convert their vineyard. It's not really their spirit, So even if the young generation is changing very fast, So and it's very positive for the future. We are now in Champagne very many positive and many intelligent young growers. So we are very optimistic for the future. But now what you have to remember, it's less than 5% today.
Is that Champagne or worldwide?
Champagne. Okay. If you consider Alsace region, for instance, I think it's maybe 20%. 20%, Pierre confirmed. Yes. In the south, in Languedoc, maybe it's more. It's maybe 30%.
Yeah, and Austria and Germany are very highly involved in it as well. So speaking of, let's talk about that sort of 5% issue in Champagne. Most of the wine world has been told that fully organic or biodynamic are just too hard within the specific conditions of Champagne. Are you just willing to risk more, or is it not as difficult as we've been led to believe?
No, I think, yes, I think that when you change, of course, when you change your way to work, your way to make things, it's always difficult the first 2, 3, 4 years, but you have to change your mind. Of course, we have humidity here. You know, we have humidity. The climate is not every day beautiful. We have rain, but okay, it's to practice organic and biodynamic in Bordeaux is for me it's more difficult than to practice in Champagne. You know, it's the same probably in Burgundy. It's the same probably in Alsace. You know, it's not so different. The climate is not so different. You know? And today, and from 2012, the first year we started to work here at Leclerc Briant, we only had 2012, which was difficult. A large number of organic growers lost a part of the production in 2012, because the rain was very heavy during the season, and the machine were not there. The people use very low, the very tractor, you know, very heavy tractor, and they were unable to treat the day after the rain, and those people lost 50% of the production. But in 13, they all invested in very light tractor, you know, and in chenillard, I don't know the translation of chenillard. You know, it's a special tractor, not with wheels, but with like tanks, you know,
like a tank.
Yes, exactly. So after 12, all the people decided to invest in such machines, in such a system to treat, you know. And from 12, we didn't get any problem. You know? Even in 17, which was a very difficult year for conventional grower, organic grower and biodynamic grower were the production was very safe. You know, no botrytis, good maturity. So and our production was much better than the conventional production, and we didn't use any pesticide. You know, so you know, we work with the intelligence of nature. And we consider after several years, the vine is able to adapt. You know, the wine is able to change its functional.
It's functioning.
It's functioning. You know? So it's a sort of a very interesting thing we noticed over the last 25 years.
So I want to make sure I understood the last comment, is that the vineyard itself, the vine, each individual vine.
Yes.
To get used to either the ease, so to speak, of working inside pesticides and insecticides, where their job is easier, they don't fight anything, versus biodynamics, where they at first they fight a little bit, but then they go, no, I can do this, and they thrive more.
You know, the first 3 years are very difficult for the vines, you know, because the roots, you know, as you probably know, the roots are very close to the soil, maybe between 20 and 50 centimeters, you know. And when you start to work the soil, you destroy some a certain percentage of the roots, you know. But after 3-4 years, the roots are going deeper. And so they are able to adapt to the humidity, to the rain, or to the dryness. You know? So it's a very interesting system. And the vine is able to adapt, you know, because there is a sort of intelligence in nature, a very, very big intelligence in nature. So the vine, we consider the vine as a living system, you know, and this living system is able to understand many things coming from nature, of course, but also coming from human being. There is a sort of interaction between human being and nature and vines. So it's very interesting to work with this approach.
I'm very excited to tell you we have lots of questions to answer, but let's go ahead and move through some more concepts that we knew we wanted to talk about. And then we'll get to these questions towards the end, because some of them are really, I think, quite poignant. This is, by the way, a picture in the Leclerc Briant cellar. I like that. They're perfect moments just waiting for the future. Precision was something that I got consistently every time I opened one of these wines and tried them, and it was really attractive to me. So it wasn't any surprise that as I walked through the winery, it was impeccably clean and everything was perfectly laid out, and there was symmetry and all of the precision just sort of matched up. But one of the things that I found that I thought was really interesting and just a neat thing to talk about is the eggs that I found in your winery, these terracotta. When I was in France, we saw a lot of terracotta being used in various forms. And obviously, most of us see pictures of eggs turned on their end, upright, with, you know, an opening on the top, and they're held in a cradle, etc. And then I walk in and I see, oh, well, that actually looks like an egg. So what was the motivation to have these custom made for you as opposed to what everybody else is using?
The egg is very interesting, but in this picture, you see the egg with a special dimension. We had asked to the builder to make an egg with the divine proportion, you know, and divine proportion.
Oh, the
yes.
Fibonacci number proportions.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
And in nature, the egg is always horizontal, never vertical, you know. And if we take a sample of wine from vertical egg, you will always obtain a cloudy juice or a cloudy wine. There is no rest for the wine. And in an horizontal egg, the wine has its own cycle. You know, you don't decide to push the wine in your direction. You don't decide to take from the lees, you know, because sometimes the wine is cloudy, sometimes it's clear, but it's never your decision. It's the natural cycle of the wine, you know? And in a vertical egg, it's always your decision, the human being decision. You push the wine to take from the lees, and it's not at all our approach to the winemaking. We let the wine, because we work with the intelligence of the nature of the wine, and we let the wine decide what it needs, not what we want to bring to the wine, but what it needs. You know, it's very different.
So basically, the vertical egg, the non-natural orientation, has constant convection. It never rests.
Yes.
And when you lay it in a natural position, it has periodic convection. Sometimes it's moving, sometimes it's not. Cool.
Exactly.
That's really neat. When we were there, they were, I think, we were shown that they were still. We were there in a non-moving period. It was very cool. That was what intrigued me, is the idea of winemakers getting the eggs, putting them vertical because of the convection current that they're asking for.
Yes, and we avoid this approach.
Yes,
we avoid. You know, we don't want this. We don't want to adopt this approach.
Very cool. All right, so now we get to dig a little deeper. I'd love for you to take us into the realities that you can now write the book on, right? Of biodynamics within the walls of the winery instead of in the vineyard. That's fairly well documented, as you pointed out. And the reason I'm interested in what you're doing in the winery is simple. The end product impresses me so much. So then I really want to find out, like, why is this? Why does this happen? You know, like when we were chatting the night of the Fête de la Lumière, the Festival of Lights, right? And we had a chance to try the Abyss that you age under the sea. And we talked about our mutual connection with the ocean. Most of the people in the audience know I surf, and I feel most relaxed, most at home, and most happy in the ocean. And that wine made me feel the exact same way. It was very, very interesting. And so that made me want to know even more than before. So talk as much as you wish about what it means to do the things that are sort of in this picture, plus a lot that are not.
So it's a long story, Ron.
No, I would listen for hours, but we have about 10 minutes.
It's a joke.
You know.
So there are plenty. It's possible to speak 24 hours without stopping to explain what we do. But I will take some sample. I will explain using some sample. You know.
Okay.
What we have to consider in a winery, in a modern winery, the wine is cut from nature. You know. because the wine is under the influence of the different things. The wine in a winery is under the influence of the human being working in the winery. The wine is under the influence of the building, of the shape of the building, of the materials, of different things. But in many cases, the wine is cut from nature. So the idea is to bring some information to the wine of what happened in nature. From vintage to vintage, nature changes, human being changes. So we have to bring those information to the wine. So it means that it's possible and sometimes to bring some information coming from sunlight or from moonlight. So it means that we bring this information sometimes during the solstice, the summer solstice or the winter solstice. We bring, in general, we bring moon information during winter solstice and sun information during summer solstice. We also bring information during equinox, spring equinox and autumn equinox, just after the harvest time. So we bring those information to permit to the wine to be connected, to stay connected to nature, because in our solar system, every living system receives information every time. We receive information from the sun, from the moon, from Mars, from Venus, from Jupiter, from every planet of our solar system, and we also receive information from behind the solar system. And in a winery, the wine is cut from those information. So our idea is to produce wine in connection with nature. And if we don't bring those information to the wine will be good, Sometimes in Champagne, people produce a good Champagne now, more and more good Champagne, but those Champagne will miss the main information, the main living information coming from the solar system, coming from outside the solar system, beyond the solar system. And so it could be air. We could bring some air to the wine. We take some air in bowl as this one from oak forest, in general from oak forest. We empty air, we press on the bowl, and we put air from forest, from oak forest in the bowl. We close the bowl and we bring back this information to the wine. It's a sort of thing we do, and we respect the natural cycle. There is a very special connection between wine, between the cycle of wine and the cycle of the vine. Mm-hmm. And the vine, to produce its flower, needs the proximity, needs the presence of the wine from previous years. And the wine, to finish its aging, its elevation, needs the proximity of the flower season. So we never boil before the flower season. It's very important, And we make many different other things. I try to, but the method is very large. The method is very, and it's changed every time. During winter time, we bring the information of the frost, because in the nature here in our region we have sometimes huge frost, but the wine doesn't know anything about frost. In a winery, temperature is the minimum is 10 degrees, yeah. And so we bring the information of the frost during winter time to the wine, so that in the way of life, in the life of our wine, if the wine meets frost during circuit distribution shipment, during the shipment, he already has known this phenomenon, So it's before bottling, we take the empty bottle of champagne, and we give the information of the shape. So it means that we pour in the empty bottle, a small quantity of still wine just before the bottling. We make this movement to be sure that the wine is able to understand the shape, to understand the glass, because it doesn't know anything about glass, and we bring back to the main part of still wine. So that when you will bottle the wine will be informed of the shape, will be informed because the shape is very important in the life, you know. We spoke about the divine, the divine proportion. So this is very important for life. So we make such a thing, you know, every time we accompany the wine at every stage to be sure that the wine will keep its energy, the wine will keep its life, and we try to control our mental also, because, you know, sometimes we are tired, sometimes we are on bad temper, and so we try to avoid to enter the winery at this period, you know. So yes, but it's true, you know. I never work on the assemblage when I'm not in good health, when I'm not tired, where I'm not when I'm in bad temper, you know.
Mm.
So all those things are very important to be able to produce such a wine. But what I have to tell you, you know, I don't know if you know this system. I brought with me when I came to the Fête de Champagne in New York, you know, last year, and it's a system which helps me to obtain the answer from the wine. You know, it's a sort of antenna, you know, and I check many things with this antenna. You know, when I'm not sure, when I don't know exactly what the wine needs, so I use this system. It's very powerful. It's very simple but very powerful, and I have adapted this system to the wine making, you know, to the organic and botanic wine making.
What was the first use of the, should we call it a cosmic, it's a cosmic energy antenna, is correct? Or am I misunderstanding its purpose?
No, it's a sort of balance between the telluric and cosmic energy, you know.
Okay.
If you want a good balance, you have to be in connection with the telluric. It's the interest of terracotta, you know. But at the same time, you have to be in connection with the cosmic. And what is important is the balance between the cosmic and telluric energy. Not too much cosmic, not too much telluric, just the right balance. You know?
Okay. Yeah, there's a video that we have that I'm not sure if it's on the Leclerc Briant website, but we can make it available of you using it in front of and talking about it with someone. I didn't think we had enough time to talk about that too, but you do have basically it's a measurement of where the energy is being focused at the moment. Is that a good way for me as a simpleton to kind of say, is this particular wine or this bottle of wine, barrel of wine is either too cosmic or too telluric, and I have to balance it out.
Le type d'énergie et où l'énergie est concentrée, à quel endroit grâce à cette outil.
It's only a system to measure, you know. It doesn't bring anything, you know. It's only to measure, you know. And I have more or less, you know, this is an antenna. We can change the wavelengths of what we measure. So it's possible when we change the wavelength, it's possible to know very precisely the real state of the wine, you know, not the chemical state of what you want, but the intimate state of the wine, you know. And this is very powerful because it gives to you the balance between the cosmic and telluric, you know. It gives to you the connection to the natural magnetic field of our planet. It gives to you what we call the internet. The internet, it's a very special word we use to measure the capacity of the wine to receive or to give information, you know, to give information to the consumer and to receive information from the human being. So we have plenty of different 14 different wavelengths we use to know the intimate state of the wine. You know? So it's very powerful. And when something missed, we are able to correct, you know, to bring a flower. We could bring to the wine information coming from flowers, from chamomile, for instance, or from horseprail, you know, from horse grass. I don't know the translation, but I think it's horse grass and chamomile, and we have different plants. We could use also some minerals. We could use chalk coming from special region of Champagne. So it's not difficult to correct the state of the wine, you know. So
basically pulling back in the information giving and preparation pieces from the vineyard, the horsetail, the chamomile,
Yes.
Maybe you're bringing in some of the chalk from the actual vineyard to reconnect it to its land, that sort of thing.
Exactly. We use such an approach.
Very good. And even, you know, there are going to be people listening who are going to have different reactions to this. And at the very minimum, you have to respect someone who puts this much attention into the details of their wine. And then I would challenge anyone who hasn't tried Leclerc Briant to try it with this conversation having been had, and then tell me there's not something different about these wines. They're really, really unique. Speaking of, let's talk about some of the wines, okay?
Okay.
All right, let's do that. And then there's some questions we'll hopefully be able to answer. So walk us through just what we need to know, what we should expect about these, starting with the idea that you're committed to lower dosage, well, sugar addition at dosage than most. And I love that because I'm a Brut Zero fan, right? But not everybody is, but I am. So what do you use as your sweetening agent when you do add? And then of course, talk about, I think the Brut Reserve is like 4 grams per liter, but some of the details of each of these wines.
Yes. So the idea is to make, as I explained to you, the idea is to make very long aging on the lees, you know. Mm-hmm. So from the harvest time to the bottling time, from September to the next June, July, we don't make any soutirage, you know. So we let the wine on the first lees till end of May, beginning of June. So it means that the wine will take a lot of things from the lees, you know, and we'll take a sort of natural silkiness, you know, a natural roundness without any addition of what you can imagine, you know. So it's the natural aging on the lees which bring to our wine the natural roundness. So when you make a long aging on the lees, you don't need to bring sugar to the wine, you know. Just a small quantity, because the consumers need sugar to be close to the material, you know, but no more than the minimum, because if you had a huge level of sugar, you will spoil, you will cover your wine, you know, and the wine will not give its best. So, and it's never my decision to bring 4 grams, 5 grams, 3 grams. I always use the system I showed to you, you know, and it's directly against the wine, you know. I put in connection the organic sugar we use, canned organic sugar, and the wine will indicate it's me what it needs, not what I want to bring, but what it needs, you know. So this is a combination of long aging, of the idea of the biodynamic, because the wine in biodynamic, the balance of the wine are very different, you know. Mm-hmm. So we don't need to bring a lot of sugar, you know. We consider we could spoil, you know, if we had a too high level of sugar, we will spoil, and we want to let the wine giving its best without any addition, you know. So it's but the long aging will permit to do it.
Yeah. That I've often talked to people as I've lectured about sparkling wines and champagne, that the shorter the time on the lees, the more sugar you need to put it into a state where the consumer will like it, because it's too young, too aggressive, it hasn't absorbed enough flavor. And certainly the aging requirements that you have, where you're not even touching the wines until after flowering the next year, that certainly changes everything for final flavor.
And one thing I would like to add something, an additional element, you know. The average age of the Britain vintage today is between 3.5 and 4.5 years on the lees, you know, in bottle. So it means that the wine, when we release our wine, in general, the minimum it's 3.5 years on the lees, you know. Which is, and you know that the minimum here is 15 months, you know. So it's much more. And the second thing is, we don't make any filtration, because we have a lot of time, you know. We let the natural sediment. We didn't make any batonnage. So in the barrels, in terracotta, we let the natural sedimentation during 10 months. So when we make the soutirage, the wine is clear. So we don't need to bring something, we don't need to filter, you know.
Yeah, the process reminds me very much of some things I've run across in modern approach to antiquity of German winemaking, where they would leave the wines in the barrels for years on gross lees, and the wines were fabulous and they had great longevity, and there's a lot of similarities there. So the Brut Reserve is made up, what's the general grape blend for the audience, and then we'll talk about the rosé, and then I think we should answer a couple of questions before we run out of time.
Yes. Yeah, in the Brut Reserve, we have a balance of Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier, 40-40, and 20% of Chardonnay in the reserve, Brut Reserve. And today, we still have on the market 14,
Okay.
the 14, the bottling from 14, and now we started the 15. I think maybe you have the 14. You have the 14, and we are in 20. You know.
Right.
So it means that 14 has been bottled in 15. So the one has spent more than 4 years on the lease, you know. So it's a lot, you know. It's a lot.
It's outstanding, especially when you start looking into the world of comparable brut non-vintage wines. It's hard to actually find a comparison. How about the rosé?
The rosé is very special because we have two parts. We have the red part, which represents more or less 5%. It's Pinot Noir made with the maceration, skin contact. And the white proportion is Chardonnay, is a pure Chardonnay. 95% Chardonnay, 5% of Pinot Noir. So it means that the rosé is very elegant, you know, very crisp, very elegant, very fresh, and it's very feminine, you know. It's a very, very lovely rosé due to the fact that we only had 95%. We only had Chardonnay, so it's very interesting, you know.
Yeah, well, to be quite honest, my favorite champagne is Brut Zero Blanc de Blanc. So I love your rosé because it speaks to my heart. But the Millésime 2009 is our next wine to cover real quick. And then we have a question about La Croisette. So we'll do both at the same time. So
okay.
The Millésime first, please.
You still have the 9?
We have the 9.
Yes. Today we sell the 13. You know, today we sell the 13, but the 9 is more or less the same percentage. We have 40% of Chardonnay, 40% of Pinot Noir, and 20% of Pinot Meunier. So you know that 9 was very, very old, very warm harvest. Mm-hmm. So it's very round, it's very rich. You know, it's a very good balance. So it's a very interesting wine. You know, and La Croisette is very different. La Croisette is very important for us because it comes from an historical vineyard. It's the historical vineyard of Leclerc. We were able to keep when we bought in 12. You know, so this vineyard had never seen any pesticide from the plantation for more than 35 years. No pesticide has been used to grow. You know, so the La Croisette is 100% oak barrel fermented. Aging on the lees during 10 months, and made with a very, all our wine are made with very small quantity of sulfite, you know, and it's the same for La Croisette. We have less than 25 milligrams per liter, you know, and the actual from 2016 we didn't add any pesticides to any sulfite to La Croisette, you know.
Okay. And
more and more we increase the number of cuvées made without any sulfite.
Okay, that's really awesome. Is that the wine that you age in the gold-plated barrel?
Yes, that's true. From 16, it's a pure Chardonnay. It's a pure Blanc de Blanc. We have one part in terracotta, one part in gold barrel, and one part in oak barrel. And the next one, the 17 part, has been made in new sphere, glass sphere, very big glass sphere.
Oh yeah.
Yes, we just bought last year. You know, two very nice. 250 liters glass sphere capacity.
Yes, I saw those. I have a couple of pictures of them. I did not use them today because the pictures were too dark. It was really hard to see. But
yes.
So they all need to go out and find a bottle. Let's see if we can get to some of these questions. Pierre, help me with these because these are off the cuff, okay? So from Liz, we have a question, you know, can you speak to your personal influence on Champagne as a whole? Meaning, are others finding inspiration in your work and converting to this way of doing things?
What do you mean? I didn't quite understand the question. Sorry.
So is speaking to Herve's current influence in Champagne, are people seeing his results and starting to follow? Or is he still considered sort of, you know, an outlier?
Well, at the beginning, you know, when Leclerc started to be organic and biodynamic, it was always like groundbreaking and really seen as, you know, crazy hippies. Now less and less, and with the experience and the renown of Herve, you know, Herve has been consulting for a long time, and a majority of the people who now work organically in Champagne have used his advice at some point when they were making the switch. So he has the recognition and also the result when you taste the wines that he has made himself or with other winemakers. So now it's more and more winemakers, even conventional or starting to go towards organic viticulture, are coming for advice to see Herve. And one of the biggest and best example of that is years ago, Herve and his friend Jean-Baptiste Le Caillon, who is the winemaker for Roederer and all the Roederer estates in the world, had long conversation, and Herve started to advise some of the winemaking choices, and now Roederer just moved to fully organic with their 240 hectares in Champagne, and among them 110 biodynamic. So it's definitely making some changes, and it's less and less seen as crazy. And you know, the reference in this world is Herve. So it's spreading.
Yeah, and you told us a story when you were there about a difficult fermentation year where wines were experiencing mallow in the middle of traditional fermentation. And they once they figured they had no answers, they came to Herve, yeah?
That's what happens when they don't find answers in their own experience or in the books. At the end, they turn to Herve.
But sometimes it's too late.
Yes, that is true.
But that was funny because it was a situation that we kept hearing about in Champagne and outside of Champagne. And someday I came to the winery and I said to Herve, it's weird because I keep hearing that from other people and we don't have this problem. Herve said, yes, we did, but I saw that coming much earlier than the rest of people and I already corrected it. So you didn't see it, but it didn't mean it couldn't happen.
So let me see if I remember this correctly. It's the idea that in the astrological energy, the malolactic is informed, inspired by Mars, and regular fermentation is inspired more by the moon. And that was the year that Mars was closest to Earth in like however many years or something like that.
Yes, 2003 it was the same. 2003, yes, the distance was very, very, very close to last year, to 18. Yeah.
So there was a confusion in the wine as to what they were supposed to be doing at the time. Fascinating. All right, so let's see. Oh my, so many things to, okay, so somebody wants to know if you made your antenna or if this is something that can be found in supply at specialty stores.
No.
It's called the Leclerc antenna. So it's Lecher from the German physicist who invented the process. So it's definitely something you can find and you can buy. But you'll need someone to teach you how to use it, which after 4.5 years here, I still haven't quite mastered.
Well, that's completely understandable. I've also watched a similar process in the South, we called it divining for water. And it was basically 2 twigs held loosely in your hand. And as you walked over an underground water source, they would cross. And I watched it happen a bunch of different times. I was like, that's amazing. I don't know why, but that's amazing. So I wasn't surprised to see the antenna doing its thing. All right, let's see here. This is from Antonio, he says, considering that today's vineyards are being planted in climates and regions in non-traditional areas, do you think biodynamic farming will be as successful as compared to traditional wine in producing region? Okay, let me see if I can summarize that. I think what he's saying is when you take and you start putting vineyards in places that haven't been planted before, is biodynamics going to be a focus there or not? And
yes, yes, of course. Yes, it's better, of course. It's better, of course, to start to work with the biodynamic approach. You know, of course, it's because there is no shock, there is no stress for the vineyard, for the vines. You know, the vine is planted, is cared with the natural approach. So it's I think it's much better. Of course, it's much better.
I don't know if it will be true in China though.
This is a very interesting question, and I think the idea here is the unity or communication that happens in the culture of making sparkling wine in France. And the question is, do Crémant producers and Champagne producers get along, or are they consider each other sort of like, I hate to use the word enemies, but certainly not fast friends? Or is there a communication loop that happens between all traditional method producers in France?
No, that's a very good question, very interesting question, because one of the things that makes Champagne so strong is the capacity that we had in Champagne to unify and to have only one appellation, a very strong brand. In the wine world, there's no stronger brand than Champagne, right? So there is not really strong discussions and unity with other producers of sparkling, because there is a vast disparity of production methods and regions and grape varietals, and so it would be hard to have a common message and a common speech. You know, it's not just because you have bubbles in the wine that it makes it similar. You know, it's you don't compare two white wines, one from New Zealand with Sauvignon Blanc and one from Chablis with Chardonnay, just because they're white. It should be the same with sparkling. It's not because it's sparkling that it can be, you know, compared. Also, it's what a lot of people do. So on one hand, we're very strong in Champagne because of this unity, but we're not really, we don't see other sparklings as enemies. We don't talk to them as that much. And we believe that as long as we keep this image that we have, we will keep this position as strong. My point is, when people drink other sparklings, a lot of time they wish they could drink Champagne. And as long as we keep this identity and this idea and this strength, we won't have any enemies in the sparkling world.
Yes, I think that's great. And reality is that, you know, in a lot of ways, other sparkling wines have opened the door for continued use of sparkling wine, including Champagne, because it's becoming a more normal thing, and that's great. And I just got a note from one of our craft and estate folks that we actually do have the 13 millésime now in the States, and actually is available in Virginia. So if you want to tell us anything about it, please do. And then then we'll need to end our session, because we're having a really good time, but we're at an hour.
The good thing with this 13 vintage is that it's more aligned with the rest of the range. My point is, Herve and the rest of the team, they bought the winery in 2012. Herve has been making the wine since 2012. So the vintage that we were selling before, the 2009 and then the 2010, were made by the former owner and winemaker at Leclerc Briant. And even though Herve worked on these wines, they were not made by Herve from A to Z. So there was a kind of a discrepancy in the range. But with the 2013, which is the first official vintage made by Herve here, the vintage wine is aligned with the rest of the range. So now all the wines that you offer to your customers are made by the same person.
Fabulous. There's a couple of other questions, but we've gone a little over time, and it was a joy. Thank you again.
If you want to ask the questions, you have my email and my phone number, so feel free to contact me. I'll pass it on to Herve if I can't answer myself, if it's technical.
Sounds great. I'm so grateful for the time. Great explanations, continuing my love affair with your wines for sure. I hope it's creating a love affair for others. I look forward to, when the current craziness is over, being back with you in person, either on this side of the Atlantic or on yours. Be well, and much gratitude.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and be well and keep safe. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.